Cheers, and welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be reacting to Roanoke Gaming's Last of Us Stalkers explained video. This is spoiler heavy. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you are only watching the show, I would recommend not watching this until the show has completed and you know some more about it. We're just going to say that there's probably going to be spoilers for the entire game and likely aspects of the show. So, I have been enjoying the TV show. I have really enjoyed the video game. I am excited to see what Roanoke has to say about how words are so easy. I am excited to see how Roanoke explains the progression of the Cordyceps infection. So that is what he's going to do today. We've already discussed the general infection, and we've discussed runners, which is stage 1. Stalkers, at least in the game, they are sort of halfway between runners and clickers. They have some sight, they're good at hearing, and they're really quick. So I'm ready to go and destroy some stalkers. I've got my sword with me because of course I do. Of course I have one of these. Are you joking? Anyway, I'm excited to go. Let us see the actual biology behind the stalkers. And again, there will be spoilers. If you haven't already liked the channel or subscribed to it, what are you doing here? Let's go. You can do it.
The Last of Us is a highly plausible infection that doesn't involve some crazy gas or reanimation after game end or some mega virus capable of hijacking every single cell the host has. This particular infection could happen in real life should the right events take place. While not probable, it's interesting to see how there is a clear line equaling out the decimation of the human population and our ultimate demise. But what form will this take? The infected from The Last of Us are plagued by the Cordyceps fungus. This fungus already has a foothold in the Animalia kingdom, currently infecting ants and driving them to their demise. The thinking, or at least my hypothesis on it is that the infected ants were eaten by primates due to the close quarters and the fact that apes actually eat ants now, and as more and more Cordyceps was introduced into the gastrointestinal tract of these primates, their bodies were able to handle it due to their stronger immune systems in place and essentially suppress it. However, the Cordyceps began to form adaptations to the body of primates based on their genome that they were encountering. Over time, the apes would continue living like they do and eventually probably end up in a human's crops around South America. Their droppings would contain the Cordyceps and contaminate these crops. These crops were shipped all over the world after their contamination. This is where things really start to take off. As these crops were eaten, this infected humans with the Cordyceps fungus. Our immune systems were not as strong, or actually are not as strong, as a primate's, and we would not have innate knowledge of the fungus, so our defenses by our bodies would be virtually useless. The Cordyceps spread so rapidly throughout the central nervous system that our adaptive immune system never had a chance to form an effective resistance before the body was under complete control by the fungus. Humanity was quickly overwhelmed after the fungus started running rampant through the populations. No longer was it relying on crops, but instead induced aggression in their human host through the corruption and stimulation of the amygdala, as well as other parts of the limbic system, led to biting being the main form of transference, but also free-floating spores. At first, runners were the only ones you had to deal with, relatively human and fighting the fungus every step of the way. As their minds were still somewhat conscious, they offered more leniency to humans on sight, occasionally anyways. Relatively weak and...
Again, I never experienced a runner that was willing to, like, chill around me. I keep seeing people who say that they had a runner that just kind of let you sneak on by. I mean, you can sneak by a lot of stuff in this game, but I never had a runner who saw me and, like, didn't freak out.
And fighting movement, they would shamble around. Their poor eyesight meant that you could sneak up on them. After all, their eyes were essentially filled with fungus. After all, there is a fungus among us. And that was pretty lame. However, this is not even close to being their final form. In fact, if you would like to see the stage 1 infection form, I will put it up at the end of this video. Anyhow, as the fungus gains more and more ground in their human host...
And if you somehow found this video before you found his video, go watch his video, and then also, like, just watch the first one as well, the runner's
This yields
video.
a stronger infected form. With the passing seasons, after the first few months to be exact, newer forms began to crop up as these infected successfully survived through time and attacks. So with this extra long, beefy intro setup, let's cover the second stage of the infection known as the Stalker from The Last of Us. The Stalker is an unfortunate case, but nonetheless interesting to see. The fungus is clearly in the early stages of overwhelming the ocular area of the skull, and the eyes are becoming more and more vestigial. The skin has become pale with many veins running all over the place. Overall, they still appear to be about the size of a normal human, but much like my last episode, the internal changes are really where the money shot is. But per usual, let's cover the exterior first. Starting with the feet, we see a creature that hasn't changed. I didn't mention feet in the last episode, and people went haywire, so here we are again. The legs are in their original shape, as well as the abdomen, chest, shoulders, etc. In the earlier stages, the fungus really only has a propensity towards affecting the face and skull for the most part. That is not to say, though, that none of the body is affected. As seen in the later stages of the infection, we can see that the skin has become affected by the presence of the fungus, and this actually forms a type of armor. In certain areas, though, patches of white fungus have destroyed the skin, pushing their way to the surface, at least concerning the arms, however. On the face, considering that this is the main point of growth, the fungus in this area has begun to force its way out through the orifices closest to the brain, specifically the ears and eyes. In this area, stalks of fungus can be seen jutting out from and growing pretty much all over. In fact, over one of the eyes in particular, we see a massive growth of fungus, which has essentially blinded the stalker in one eye. It appears that there is a main vein that feeds it, and this is also filled with bioluminescence. But as with all interest...
Okay, so like, how does he even figure that kind of stuff out? Like, I've seen this game played through before. I'm currently doing a playthrough of it with some friends. I will be doing another one later once it comes out for the PC in March. I did not know that you could... Who like comes up with turning off the light? Like, I don't know. That's wild.
Things, that's where the exterior knowledge becomes kind of plain. So let's get to the good stuff.
That's cool.
And learn about what makes this creature tick and why they are able to do the things that they're able to. Meet Joel. He's angry. He's got a crazy case of old man strength, and he's about done with these zombies on this hotel. Joel has been shown he can knock out a full-grown man in a fist fight with relative ease and go toe-to-toe with many runners and do the same. The dude is pretty strong, no doubt about it. However, when running into stalkers, this strength begins to fail him. Or does it? It's not really Joel becoming weaker, but the overriding of evolutionary traits in the stalker that gives them an edge. So let's take a trip back through our roots, shall we? Before humans were humans and we had much more hair, we were also a lot stronger. As we evolved to be completely different from our ape ancestors, this yielded some changes biologically to us that helped us dominate the planet, but made us much weaker than our predecessors. So what are these changes? Well, let's get to it, because it's actually fairly fascinating, mainly because it was a pretty intense risk for our species to take, but luckily it paid off. Our muscles have evolved over time to be weaker. I know, we all want to go to the gym and get swole, but even an extremely large man would lose a fist fight with a chimp. There are some pretty good reasons for this, though. As our brains began to grow larger, muscles no longer needed to be as large as they were. Through the process of natural selection, certain apes were better at breeding because they may have been smarter and survived longer, whereas others may have been stronger, but they were still torn apart by even larger animals. The smarter ones continued to reproduce, and through time, this yielded weaker bipedal humans with larger, more powerful brains. But it wasn't just the size of the biceps or triceps or back or chest or leg muscles. These glamour muscles can still be increased in size in humans to almost ridiculous proportions. A particular set of muscles need to be downsized that may have been the most important of all, the jaw muscles. In apes, these jaws are massive. This in turn puts strain on the skull, which causes them to be thicker, leaving less room for brain matter. The human jaw is, in contrast, pretty delicate and on the other end of the spectrum. With our smaller jaw muscles, this meant that the jaw could also be smaller itself. This allowed for the skull to lose some of its robustness and allow for our brains to be larger, which in turn allowed us to understand cooking meat and so on and so forth, and this is why we have smaller jaws, because we didn't need to break down fibrous plant material or even just raw meat. Why am I lecturing you about muscles at this point? Because it's a major player in the stalker's strength, which you are probably saying, yeah, duh, right now, but bear with me. This muscular strength seemingly waned over time to allow us to become more intelligent, but there is another side to all this. The brain
Is that why there is like a myth, I guess, or a rumor? Is that why the assumption out there is that like people who are like super meatheads are not as intelligent? Like you have like the meathead jock who's an idiot versus the Twinkie nerd who is really smart. Is like that where this kind of comes from? Like this idea of, um, you know, if you're like more of an ape-like person, you're not as smart. I don't know. Just asking.
Sends a signal to the muscle to contract. As we all know, the muscle performs the action and everything is right in the world. However, through the millions of years, our muscles have learned to contract more efficiently and very precisely. This allows us to perform actions we do and conserve energy. After all, do you really need your entire arm to contract to pick up a glass of water or type on a keyboard? Of course not. Backtracking to apes, they do not perform this.
It does make things very funny though when you go to like pick up something and you think it's gonna be heavier than it is. Like this happens to me with water jugs a lot. Like at work, I'll go to like pick up a opaque water jug to fill it up or to like do someone's pour water in someone's glass, and I go to pick it up and I think it's gonna be heavy, and then I end up going like this because it's empty, or I'm like, oh wow, whoops, there it goes, because I just used a lot more contraction in my muscles than I needed to.
Movement as efficiently. More of their muscles seem to contract with each movement, meaning that they would have a tough time controlling their strength. I too sometimes experience this when I see Mrs. Kitty when I get home from work. I cannot control how hard I squeeze her. It's actually a problem. That being said, they don't actually seem to have all that more muscle than us though. So some of you probably know what I'm hinting at by now, but to sum it up, the brain limits our strength to conserve energy. In fact, go exercise after this video. You know that pain and fatigue you feel? It's not your muscle telling your brain, hey, I'm done. It's actually your brain telling other parts of your brain, yo dog, let's slow it down. We might end up using 60% of our strength, which in turn could damage ourselves. Your brain, in an effort to control its meat suit and not damage it, turns down your strength. In theory, if you were to use 100% of your strength, you could probably beat a chimp in a fist fight, lift up the back end of the car, or run faster than you've ever run in your life. You know, all the fun things. But this in turn could damage your body and wear it out faster, so you just don't do it. A side note is adrenaline does unlock this for a short amount of time, but it's really only unlocking what's already in you all the time, every day. This hormone just allows you to shut that part of your brain up that says, it's gonna be a no for me, dog. So with that shut down, you're able to do all these things that would be considered superhuman. So this is where we get the stalker. Do you think a fungus cares about you injuring yourself, tearing muscle from bone, straining ligaments? Absolutely not. Deep within the motor cortex, which is located at the rear portion of the frontal lobe, has been highly altered. As discussed in the Runner episode, this area of the brain, as well as the cerebellum, were just starting to be tapped into, but the host had some control. They now have zero control. The motor cortex associated with voluntary movement is now infested with this fungus. As such, signals are now told to fire with full force. No longer is any part of the brain telling itself to slow down or turn down the strength. Instead, 100% is sent down the pipeline and converted into movement. This would clearly wear out the body quicker over time, but while it still works, it's using everything it's got. For a normal human attempting to counter this, it would be extremely difficult.
Yeah,
with
geez.
the other body punching much harder, moving much faster, and reacting less to your hits, your body would tire quickly, which would probably lead to your demise. As seen when Joel is attacked by a female stalker, usually muscle located on your typical male is going to be in greater quantities than your females. Yet you can see here there are some major issues with his ability to defend himself. But it's not just strength that the stalker is going for, it also has increased awareness. Another thing to note about the brain is you actually ignore a lot of what's going on around you. Movement, sound, smells, taste, touch. Your brain does this because if you didn't, you might actually go insane. In fact, interestingly, to derail your brain's thought process, like say if you're having an anxiety attack, you should point out to yourself all the things you are sensing currently. This will cause your brain to focus on new incoming information that it has been ignoring and almost causes you to stop all other thought. Actually, it doesn't almost cause it, it causes you to stop all other thought. So
that is a good thing to do if you're having like an anxiety attack. It's like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, like something you can smell, and something like 2 things you can smell and 1 thing you can taste, like that kind of thing. I do say I wish that there was a way for me to, like, if I'm just sitting in the living room and I'm trying to read or something and the wind starts going and starts like making the fireplace bang, I cannot make that sound go away. Or like when the heat starts clicking on through the vents and there's just this occasional clicking noise, I'm like, I can't, I'm just like, I'm so focused on the clicking noise, or the fridge cycling through like a power session or something. Like, I don't know, like occasionally those kinds of noises just I'm just like, I can't focus on anything else that I'm trying to focus on except for this one stupid sound that is just like, I know none. My roommate doesn't. It's not. My roommates aren't bothered by it. Like, I'm just like, it's just me then. Okay. So if there was a way to like mitigate that, someone should let me know.
It's pretty interesting, but basically with your brain ignoring these other pieces of information, it makes us less aware of our surroundings. The neurons are still firing, telling us what's happening, yet we just don't take note. But you know who does take note? The stalker. The stalker brain is aware of most incoming information. Considering the limiting factors of the brain have been switched off in favor of a more aggressive creature by the fungus, sensory information, or at least the intake of it, is heightened to what it could be in all humans without the shackle of our own brain. Of course, we might just interpret this as a horrible migraine. The stalker, however, uses it to its benefit. Moving around quietly, you might assume you could sneak up on a stalker, but that's not gonna happen.
Not really,
every
no.
footstep is heard, every small vibration is felt. The new smell you drag in with you is immediately picked up on. The stalkers are essentially excellent hunters. Heightened senses are pretty great, I am not gonna lie, but the stalkers also seemingly have learned. The brain is still technically functional, and it has to actually be able to communicate with the body to move, which is why headshots still work on infected. So incoming information and successes do seem to still stick in the minds of the infected. They will choose to ambush people rather than just run at them like runners, unless they're really close. But this could be for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that when you have people who were infected as runners, their self-preservation still existed. Let's be real, being shot probably doesn't feel wonderful. Some may have even wanted to stay alive, and even when infected, chose to bob and weave out of danger, perhaps hoping they could be cured later. While they didn't ever get cured, these neural pathways choosing to hide and game in stayed strong, leading to stalkers later on. A less passive way may have been early in the infection. Some people didn't fight the infection and instead had a better them than me mentality. They knew that they were already done for, but they didn't want to be immediately taken out by those around them. They chose to hide and attack those that got near. This successful form of hunting stayed ingrained in their minds, and as the infection progressed, they kept this form of attack, which left them alive for much longer than the other runners who would have fallen in the chaos of an outbreak. Another adaptation is also beginning to form in the stalkers that we will see more perfected in the later forms. Their echolocation abilities have begun to come in thanks to the fungus overtaking the eyes of the person. This croaking noise that they make can be assumed to actually be the early versions of clicking heard later. This, coupled with the heightened ability to hear, means that they can still locate human prey effectively in the area. Lastly, we come to their overall aggression. With their brain,
I don't remember their
not
croaking
limiting their
noises.
strength, their aggression also makes them much stronger. Presumably at this point, the amygdala has been wholly taken over, and also due to this, rage is probably induced with any incoming stimulus that is out of the ordinary or past a certain internal threshold. This altered portion of the brain has allowed them to be exceedingly strong and capable whether they are grappling with a full-grown male or female. The fact is, their muscles are working at max capacity and they see red all the time. When confronting a stalker, calculated moves are the best. Hand-to-hand combat is ill-advised due to their strength as it can overwhelm you. While it's not an instant bite-like death with the clickers, the fact is they are just about to that stage and will dig into your neck given the chance. So best to sit back with a shotgun and shoot anything that moves. The stage 2 infection form is one perfectly adapted to ambushes and has the power to bring down any human if you—
And they're so quiet too in the game. Like they have this ability to just, but they're so soft. Like the clickers are still making noises almost the whole time. The stalkers don't really do that as much, and they're quiet, and then they just kind of appear out of nowhere, and they're so zigzaggy. Ugh, stalkers are awful.
If you aren't ready. They also seemingly will work together and attack in groups, which could overwhelm groups of humans quickly, thus adding to more infected on the scoreboard. But I'll tell you, man, it has been more than a hot minute since I've done anything on The Last of Us. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope it didn't sound weird. I had a vertigo attack earlier today for the first time in my life, which was just making history. 10 out of 10. Oh, God. So before I go on any other spiel, I see y'all want several different types of videos, and I do plan on covering quite a few of those. Just getting through the backlog of what I've already started first, so don't fret. Anyways, if y'all did enjoy, leaving a like helps it get out there. Also, if you are new and like the topic, subbing is a great way to keep up with the channel. Just don't forget to hit that stupid bell to actually be notified occasionally, I guess. I'll drop my Twitter, Patreon, and Discord, as well as my merch links in the description description if anyone is interested in that. But speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank mine. First up, our astronauts. Here is the man of the hour, Joseph Givens. Thank you for your patronage, bro. Then we got your boy, It's Not a Spoon. I thank you as well, man. Then it's an old favorite, Laffy No Skill. And a thank you to you as well. Remember to actually start wearing your respirator during demolitions. Next up, our scientists are Artyom Chornage. Next up, it's A. Laurentis. Our lone resident is Punished Meat. Our 3 geneticists are Alison Caspero, Divine Whisper, and Andrew Lawson. Holding their Masters of Biology, we have Adam Hartswick, Mr. Poyfish, Cough Syrup, Pendleton 115, Stut, The Otterman, The Wren of Lies, Cameron Smith, and Edgy McGee. And next up with our Bachelor's of Morphological Sciences, it's Scrambled AF because I messed up the structuring. It's Eric Scott Gillies, Dustin Ellis, Ahigao Comics, Captain Gasmask, Alex the Gun Guy, Professor Benips, Anthony Wolf, Riot, The Original Fat, Russell McBride, Molten Tarts, Trixie Lulamoon, add to the list, Fruit Eater, Kyle McHenry, Dark Gear, Sir Deadlock, Jake Russell, Marcus Vall, Icarus, and Dragon of Death. Thank you everyone for your patronage. Alright, so it's almost summer. Good lord, I am ready to hang out in the sun, and I hope you guys are too. Anyhow, I hope everyone has a good weekend. Thanks for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Okay, so that was about the Stalkers. Again, Stalkers I think were one of my least favorite enemies in the game because you can almost never hear them coming. They do appear in groups a lot of the time. They can see you, so you can't just duck behind a wall and then you're gone, essentially, like you can sometimes do with a clicker. They will follow you. They're awful. They're difficult to beat. There always seems to be another one. It's a really cool, stage. It's just, yeah, very frustrating. Again, thank you so much for watching. I will be continuing to go through some of these Roanoke Last of Us videos until I get note that Roanoke does not want anyone reacting to his videos. I haven't seen anything that suggests that so far. I really enjoy them. If you have not checked out Roanoke Gaming, make sure that you do that. He's got a lot of really, really cool videos about all sorts of things. The video that got me hooked on his stuff was actually one he did about the movie Nope. It was the first video of his I ever saw. I do recommend it. It's really cool. So I'm looking forward to finishing up some of these The Last of Us gaming, and then maybe I can continue on and watch what he has been talking about the show. I have been thoroughly enjoying the show. If you want to talk about the show with me, you can pop on to Discord. I am on there. I am not super active yet, but just at me on Discord. The link is in the description below. I will respond to your stuff. I would love to talk about this a little bit more often. I love the show. I love the game. I cannot wait to play it for real again. And if you haven't already liked the video, we would really appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are trying to get to 100K. We're very close, so we're just come on, you can help us out. And then if you haven't become a patron, we'd really, really appreciate it. I'm just going to read a couple of names here just to double thank you. I have not done this yet before of reading names out loud, but I'm going to try doing it. Roanoke does it. A bunch of other creators do it. So thank you for Dumiel and one of our Inquisition level patrons. Thanks to some of our Stardust level patrons, Fujoshi Cake and Ben Heslop. Thanks to some of the guardsmen, Ravenous Squirrel, Red Steel Moss, Apathetic Wood. We've got Ola, we've got David Sohn, we've got Red 5, Darth Danker, Habuski, Bloodshot, Zareth Dominion, Neberic, Nick, Letai, JF, Colin Rocha, Nimbus. We've got that one guy under the Alunar, that one guy 217. So thank you again to everyone who is a patron. I'm going to try and read out a couple more names more often as I go through these, just because y'all deserve it. We want to get you some recognition because we couldn't do this without you. So thank you once again, and join me next time when I am looking at Roanoke's video about clickers. Cheers.